Hello, 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 everybody, and welcome to episode 52 of the Horsemen podcast. Yeah, we're back for the first time in less than 2 weeks. And we got a big episode for you guys today. Is of course yours truly, Levi's here, but I'm also joined by Ricky,
Yellow.
returning for the first time in so long. We have Andreas, and next to him we got Raphael. And last but certainly not least, the always pretty Hannah.
Yeah.
So, yes, this is actually going to be the first of 3 streams I'm doing today. God help me. This is going to be a busy day for me because.
Hey! At least they'll be preparing you for your 12-hour stream.
True. Very true. Eventually, when that happens, once I get my PS3 to be able to stream and get a cable for the drums to hook up to the computer, and I can play the drums on there. But that probably won't be for like another week, maybe 2 weeks. We'll see. But with all that said and done, this week's episode for the Horseman podcast, yeah, we're doing it on a weekend, which is very rare for the Horseman podcast. But I guess a lot of us were off from work on this day, so we're like, you know what? Screw it. Let's just do this episode. And already I see some people in the chat. I see the Chronics, and of course Ricky having to torture me again. But anyways, though. This time around we are talking the top 10 live albums. This is an interesting one for a lot of us because some of us haven't listened to live albums all that much. But figured a good place to begin would be to talk about what, in our opinion, makes a great live album. To me, what I think makes a great live album is not only the live ambience to give it that live feel, but also even the little things, like the little screw ups you hear in the album. They're cool because it actually feels like you were there at the show. And of course, the performance has to be great as well. So that's really my short, sweet, to the point answer. Ricky, what about you?
Well, for a lot of people, unfortunately, don't have the money or, I guess, the environment to go to a concert and experience that feeling live. So the best option is to get the live album so they can have that sense of enjoyment when they see probably one of their favorite bands live. But like you said, Levi, the little fuck ups there and there whenever a note is not on tune, or when the band just decides to fuck it, do something improvisation. I think it's kind of cool whenever they do that, especially me as a guitarist. Whenever certain artists do some crazy guitar things that I'm just like, if only they were recording that in an actual studio, it would be a lot different. But that emotion live makes it a lot better, because there's some albums that are better live than in the studio. Let's admit it.
Or songs in particular.
Or songs, yeah. I'll with that name.
Andreas, what about you?
Actually like more live albums in studio than studio albums. Like it feels more real, you know. It's it's like, especially when you go to a live concert, like it's just like it's hard to explain, but it's like it's a real it's like a feeling out process.
Raphael?
I mean, live albums. We're talking about good live album. I want to feel like you're actually in the concert, experience it. And even though I'm not much of a fan of live albums, but if I would, I just want to hear the song, and then when I see them live, I'm like, wow. I want to feel like I'm actually in the concert. Anything else?
Hannah?
Well, I just think that concert concerts in general and live albums are a good way to judge a band. Of course, there are always bands who do not play live shows or do not record their concerts, but I mean, it's a way to kind of judge them, and because some bands manage to elevate their music from the studio albums in a live setting, and it's just a great kind of feeling when you discover a band that thrives in a live setting, be it if you are there or listen to one of their recordings of a show. And there are a lot of bands who are, in my opinion, better live than in studio, and it's just great to see that. And the other aspect that I really like about live albums, I mean, if you get normal studio albums, with a lot of bands, you have like a few songs, selective songs on one album that you like, and during a live setting, it's very likely that they will play their most well-known songs, and you just hear them one after the other. And I mean, on studio albums, you have to go to different albums and so on, and so you have them all united on one live album, and it's just great to experience all these amazing songs one in a row on one of these live albums. And I mean, if it's engineered right and if it's recorded right, and I mean, there are some snippets of the crowd participating, it's just a different, more energetic feeling than you ever get on a studio album. I mean, there are also studio albums that are quite energetic, but I mean, especially with some live genres, especially like thrash and so on, and power metal and heavy metal, it's nice seeing that on stage. And that's one of the reasons why I love live albums. I mean, I like listening to them. I like collecting them. I mean, I also like going to shows. Currently, it's not possible, so I have to stick to the live albums.
And currently, right now, a live album is the perfect experience for a new metal fan to get into the band, because, of course, with the pandemic, there's no shows. This is like the only way you can actually experience that feeling. So whenever the shows come back, you'll be prepared for that live setting.
And I mean, it doesn't matter if it's on DVD, YouTube, or on a vinyl record or on a CD, as long as you get this kind of feelings. I mean, it's just awesome.
And with live albums, there's a lot of bootlegs.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is true.
That's true.
But I mean, you can compare different eras of a band and so on. If you, for example, just let's talk about Metallica. I mean, if you compare their live stuff from the late 80s to the stuff they did during the 2000s, it's just worlds apart. And it's nice to have this kind of recording of their greatness, as I might call it. And it's just great. I mean, for those of us who weren't born in the 80s or 70s or whatever, to experience how great some shows or some bands used to be, it's just... I think it's great that these recordings are there for us to still enjoy.
Yeah, that is true.
Well, with all that said and done, let's actually now talk about our lists, and we shall begin with honorable mentions. For me, I have 7 honorable mentions. First, I have Slayer, Decade of Aggression.
I have that one on my list.
Yeah. The double live album from 1991 during the Seasons in the Abyss tour. I mean, you started all off with a great version of Hell Awaits, and top to bottom, there's not really anything bad on it. I mean, of course, Tom's high notes later in his career weren't as good as you would hear them in the studio, but still, the way that the musicians like Jeff, Tom, Carrie, and Dave all still working together well in sync on this album was great. Next up, classic one that I'm going to be shocked that Ricky probably would. I would hope Ricky would at least have it, but I don't know. Thin Lizzy, Live and Dangerous.
I forgot about it.
I was going to put that one.
I forgot about it.
I was going to put that one.
And I do love me my Thin Lizzy.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the pillar live albums of the 70s, and I mean, when you have Huey Lewis coming in to play harmonica on one of your songs, then you're pretty much set in stone as a legendary band. You know, and of course, rest in peace, Phil Lynott. I mean, he just kicked ass live back in the day. Next up, Rush, and there are quite a few Rush live albums you could put on here, but I went with the first one, All the World's a Stage. And
interesting.
So this was the 2112 tour when they did this, and this is an example of why live albums can be great. Is even the little bits, like Neil Peart said in later years that talking about this album, he liked it whenever at one point here in the back, like the mic fell off of his kick drum at one point. That's what makes it great. It's having that experience of things that might go off kilter, but always gets fixed pretty easily. And even Geddy Lee said himself that this was the best Rush live album, because while the other one that you could have went with would have been Exit Stage Left, which was the Moving Pictures tour, but the problem that Geddy has with it is that they pulled the audience back from that album compared to All the World's a Stage. Next up, the most recent live album I have is Dark Roots of Thrash by Testament. 2013, another double album, especially the live version of the song Rise Up. Like, to me, even though it's a great song on Dark Roots of Earth on the studio album, to me it fits more in a live setting, especially with the crowd involvement with the chorus Rise Up, or like that's more fitting for a live setting. Next up, one of only 2 live albums that I actually own. And this is actually part of a double pack I got recently. Juvenilla by Morbid Angel. And, well, this came from a show with 4 classic bands. So the little backstory behind this. It was Nottingham, England, at Rock City, 1989. Earache Records puts on the Grind Crusher show. And you had on this bill Morbid Angel, Bolt Thrower, Carcass, and Napalm Death. I believe Morbid Angel was the penultimate band. I think Napalm was the headliner, and I think Bolt Thrower opened. But only the Morbid Angel performance has been released as an album. And yeah, Juvenilla, they play Altars of Madness top to bottom, as it was the only material they had to play at this point. But still, it was cool to see them go to England to play the album in its entirety in 1989, and Pete the Feet. That's all I'm going to say. And actually, I just remembered, speaking of Napalm Death, I'm going to add a quick additional honorable mention. Live Corruption by Napalm Death. 1990 Harmony Corruption tour. They're playing, and holy shit, they kicked ass on that bill. And it was also, I think, one of the last recordings Mick Harris did before he left in 91. So I had to throw that in now that I brought up Napalm. So there we go. Next up, another one I'll be shocked if nobody else has on their list. Live Evil, Black Sabbath.
That's on my honorable mention.
And the reason I went with this is because, I mean, this was the last recordings Dio did with Sabbath before forming Dio. And while, yeah, there was a tumultuous backstory behind it where after every show, Tony or Ronnie would go in and do remixes. And it's what kind of broke the band apart for a while. But the performance, unbelievable. And to hear Dio singing the Ozzy stuff so well, especially the song Black Sabbath, you can't go wrong with it. And then my final honorable mention, Sodom, Mortal Way of Life. 1988,
should have seen that one coming.
1988 Persecution Mania tour. And you can watch this album on YouTube. Holy crap. Even though Tom's voice isn't as evil live, at least in the 80s, before he sounds like the way he does now live, which is almost just like in the studio. But on this show, he did a more punky style, which was cool. But the reason why I go with this one is because the version of Obsessed by Cruelty they play live, especially with the drum solo by the late great Chris Witchhunter, puts this album over the top for me. And again, you can watch the performance of this album live on YouTube. But yeah, those were my honorable mentions. Hannah, what about you?
Well, I love live albums, so it shouldn't be it should be unsurprising that I have quite a few honorable mentions. Actually, I'm unsure how many.
A few.
Yeah. Well, let's kick it off with AC/DC Live. I'm sorry, Ricky. I'm really sorry. I mean, whenever I listen to AC/DC or whenever I put songs on my party playlist, the songs are from this album. I just think all the classics are on here. The recording quality is awesome, and the bits and pieces of the crowd you hear in there are just very energetic. It feels very alive, and that's what I like about this recording. For me, it's the best AC/DC live recording. I just love listening to it, and that's why it's here. Next off, I've got this one, Motorhead, No Sleep Till Hammersmith.
That's my number 8.
I mean, I like Motorhead and I like this album. I mean, the important songs are on here: Ace of Spades, and Overkill, and so on. Motorhead, Bumper, and whatever. Everything is on here that you want to listen of early Motorhead. It's an awesome recording, and I like to spin it once in a while. But there are albums I like more. That's the only reason why it's only in the honorable mention list. The same is for Queen live at Wembley. One of the greatest live concerts ever, with the great Freddie Mercury, 28 songs. I mean, it's more than 2 hours long, and this is how a band of the size of Queen should perform. I mean, I've seen some of the bigger bands, and I think it's just a tad bit sad if they just play for like an hour and a half. I mean, a lot of them could play longer, and they should play longer just to showcase whatever they can pull off. But sadly, a lot of bands don't do it anymore. And that's kind of sad, in my opinion. I mean, I've seen David Gilmour. He can do it. He can still play like 2.5, 3 hours without a pause and so on. It's just spectacular. Well, next I have Call of Luna, Marina live with Julie Christmas. And what I like about this album, I mean, the collaboration between Call of Luna and Julie Christmas is quite unusual in itself. But the fact that they went on tour with this and even recorded an album, and it sounds almost as good as the studio album, is just mind-boggling. And that's what I sometimes like about live performances, is that you see artists collaborating that you would never imagine would ever collaborate with each other, or some special or unexpected guests, like I will talk about later. I mean, the quality of this recording is very well, and it's very listenable. I like to spin it as much as I like spinning the studio record, so it's a great live album. Then I have Earth Inferno by Fields of the Nephilim, one of my favorite gothic rock bands. And on this live recording, I mean, you can hear how enthusiastic the crowd was during, I think it was recorded in 1992 or something like that, how enthusiastic and energetic everybody was. It just feels so alive, and all the important Fields of the Nephilim songs are on here. Of course, it's without their most recent album. If you want to listen to live recordings of that, you have to listen to Ceremonies, which is a great live album too, but I prefer Earth Inferno. At least that's me. Then talking about unexpected guests, I mean, Leprous live at the Rockefeller Music Hall is just a great live album. It includes all of the important early songs out of Leprous's discography. The recording is very clean and crisp, and then you have the live appearance of Ishan during the last song, Contaminate Me. Oh, it just fits, and I like spinning this one. Great live album, especially how progressive and complicated Leprous are. I mean, I was skeptical before I saw them for the first time if they could pull off this kind of very intricate progressive music on a stage, but they're awesome live. I mean, if you get a chance to ever see them, do so. Next one I have Call of Fire, Kali Fire Puja. This was also released on VHS and cassette. I have the vinyl.
Oh, those old things.
Yeah, and I think they even release it on 8-track. They sometimes release stuff on very weird formats. And I mean, with black metal, a lot of bands refuse to play live in the first place, and a lot of, I mean, in some other bands, they don't sound as atmospheric on a stage as they do on the stereo album. So I mean, black metal can be a quite difficult genre to pull off on stage, but Call of Fire managed to replicate this kind of Hinduistic, Buddhist, kind of mystical feeling on stage very well, with all the candles scattered around on stage and incense and so on. And I mean, this recording is, I've seen them, and it worked very well on stage, and this recording captivated this experience very well. I mean, it's a great live recording for a black metal artist, especially given that it was a rather low budget production. It's still very good. Then next I have Enslaved Roadburn Live. A rather recent release, and I mean, there have been a few bootlegs of Enslaved here and there, but this one, I mean, this is an official release, and the quality, the production quality is pretty awesome, and the selection of songs is great. You have stuff like Convoys to Nothingness on here, which is one of my favorite Enslaved songs, and even a cover of the Led Zeppelin's Immigrant song. And that thing, Enslaved playing Led Zeppelin, is just so fucking awesome, and probably one of my favorite moments out of this album. I just love listening to this. Then next I have Immortal, the Seventh Day of Blashurk, the live recording they did at Wacken.
And I forgot that one.
And I mean, if we're talking about live black metal bands, I mean, Abath just belongs on stage. He is an energetic dude, and Immortal works very well in a live setting. And the thing is, I mean, if I listen to Immortal, most of the time it will actually be this recording of their performance at Wacken. It's just all the good and early songs out of their discography are on there, and it's just energetic as hell. I mean, I think I even had it in my car on full volume the other day. It's just a very lovely, energetic experience. Then I have Kawan live, entitled released on February 26th, 2016. I think that's the official name of the recording. It was only released digitally, and the awesome thing about it is they play two of their concept albums, Pirut and Sorny Night, consecutively. And if you know Kawan, their music is very intricate. There's there are lots of mixtures between quiet and doomy, loud passages. And the thing is, they managed to put this rather intricate music into a live setting and make it work. And I think it was recorded in Kiev, if I remember correctly. And just the quality of the recording is just superb. And I mean, I listened to it yesterday, and it's just music to get lost and to just enjoy, maybe during the nighttime. It's just perfect. And then second to last, I have Orphaned Lands, The Road to Our Shalom, recorded in Tel Aviv. This oriental, folky, progressive music in a live setting in their home country, with everybody joining in, singing along to the lyrics, especially during songs like Nora and Nora. It's just a very feel-good album, and it works very well in a live setting. I've seen Orphaned Land live. It's awesome. And the last album I have is Symphony of the Lost by Paradise Lost.
Oh no!
Recorded in Plovdiv.
I forgot that.
Honorable mention. It's probably not my favorite live album they ever has ever been, but it's certainly a very good, solid recording with all the important songs on here. I like Nick Holmes in the live setting, his voice, be it either the death metal growls or his clean singing. It's just captivating listening to him, and that's one of the things I like most about the album. And last honorable mention, Catatonia Sanctitude. I like that album as well. Forgot to put it on the list, but that's my honorable mentions. I know it was quite a few, but I love live albums.
And I just remembered another quick honorable mention, and I can't believe I forgot this one. Vakken Carnage by Bloodbath. I forgot about that one. I forgot about that one. Yeah, to see that lineup of Bloodbath live of Michael, Jonas, Anders, and Dan Swano live. Or no, it wasn't.